My grandparents' living room could not have been any larger than 20 feet by 12 feet. It contained a small black and white TV, my grandfather's chair, my grandmother's chair, and a sofa that was really a daybed. The chairs and sofa were usually occupied by Grandpa, my dad, and my several uncles. Grandma, my mom, aunts, and girl cousins would spend the afternoon in the kitchen or outside. There wasn't any room for a coffee table, which was actually a good thing. Anywhere from 8 to 12 boys, including me and my brother, sat curled up or lay out on the remaining floor space. To call it cramped wouldn't really be honest. You couldn't actually walk through the room. You were stuck where you landed. This was how I spent many Sunday afternoons as a boy in the 1960s, watching the weekly television broadcast of the Chicago Cubs. The legendary Jack Brickhouse was calling the game on TV, but the sound was always turned down because my grandpa preferred listening to Vince Lloyd and Lou Boudreau call it on the radio broadcast. There is much about my grandpa Phillis that I do not know, but he was the man of the family. This picture of him on Sunday afternoons in Cambridge, Illinois, is among my clearest memories of him. I don't know that what I saw and heard from my grandpa was typical Cubs fan behavior. He was mostly angry as he watched the games. After all, in those days, the Cubs weren't very competitive. But every spring, summer, and early fall, he'd be in the living room watching and listening. So that's where I was. All the Phillis men were there because Cubs baseball was a Phillis thing. When Fergie Jenkins was pitching against the Cardinals' Bob Gibson, which usually happened on Sunday, it was very important, and I knew it. Despite their losing ways, I became a Cubs fan because of my grandpa, and my father taught me about team loyalty. Once a year, my folks took my sister, my brother, and me to a game. We alternated between St. Louis, Mom was a Cardinals fan, as was my sister, yuck, and Wrigley Field. Being there reinforced everything I had already learned. The green of the field and the ivy was more vivid at Wrigley than any other place on earth. The blue and red of the Cubs' uniforms and the pennants that other fans waved became deeply etched on my retina. We would get one Coke and one hot dog each game, and that dog tasted better than any other hot dog I would eat the whole year. These are the ways I learned what it meant to be a Phillis. I am a third-generation Cubs fan, and I tell anyone who will listen, even if they may not be interested, that I raised fourth-generation Cubs fans. Recently, after our first granddaughter was born, I got down on the floor and began to tell her about Ernie Banks and Ron Santo, Ryne Sandberg and Harry Carey, because I want her to understand what it means to be a Phillis. I want her to come to love what I love. Parenting is much more than indoctrination. Passing along beliefs and values is a big part of it. We want our kids to love what we love. And the true test of how we've done will be answered when they leave our homes and start making their own choices. The requirements of parenting. For Christians, having your child embrace faith in Christ and live out that faith is the clearest indication that you have succeeded in parenting. The college years are when you are most likely to face the greatest challenges to your child's commitment to Christ. Voices on campus will call into question the core beliefs and essential practices of the faith. Some will attempt to convince your child that your efforts to love him are actually designed to force him to continue adhering to an antiquated faith that is full of hate. As you face these issues, I encourage you to focus on the responsibilities that are yours. Seeking to understand your child and the challenges she is facing, and expending all the necessary energy to love her, no matter what resistance to your efforts she might show. You might think that understanding and loving your child is the most natural thing in the world,